It's election day, which means there are only 1,463 days until the 2024 election. Yeah! Fact, President Donald Trump is a clear underdog to win a second term on November 3rd. But just because Trump is a long shot does not mean he is a no shot. Think of it this way. If I told you you had a 5% chance of dying if you left your house today, you'd probably stay home, right? Because even though you had a 95% chance of living, that 5% chance, it's not nothing. So yes, Trump can win. It isn't the most likely scenario. The most likely scenario is a win by former Vice President Joe Biden with between 300 and 350 electoral votes. But there is at least one scenario that gets Trump a second term. How, you ask? Well, I'm really asking myself, but regardless, let's go to the electoral map. Okay, so Trump or Biden needs at least 270 electoral votes to win, and that amounts to a simple majority of the 538 electoral votes in the country. Sidebar, yes, there is a scenario that gets us to a 269 electoral vote split, in which case the newly elected House of Representatives would choose the next president from the top 3 electoral college vote getters, but that's unlikely and would be totally insane. End sidebar. All right, so let's start by giving Trump the 125 electoral votes that are solidly in his camp. Most of those states centered in the Upper Plains and the South. And yes, states like Alabama and Louisiana and the Dakotas could well be considerably closer than they were in 2016, but Trump should still win them without, no sweat, breaking a sweat. Now begins some of the heavier lifting. Just did 100 of those. Trump would next need to win a quartet of states, that's Texas, Georgia, Ohio, and Arizona, that have traditionally favored the Republican nominee in presidential contests. But at this point in this race are pretty close. Now of that group, only Ohio has gone for a Democrat for president this century. Barack Obama won the Buckeye State in both 2008 and 2012. Now, Bill Clinton was the last Democrat to win Arizona back in '96 and the last Democrat to win Georgia in '92. And it's been more than 4 decades since Jimmy Carter won Texas all the way back in 1976, year of my birth. Now, given that history, Trump would absolutely have to have all 4 of those states. And if he wins them all, he's up to 208 electoral votes and he needs 62 more. Now, no Republican has won the White House in nearly a century without winning Florida, and Donald Trump is no exception. He has to have Florida in its 29 electoral votes too, which if he gets them, gets Trump to 237 total. Sidebar. If Trump loses Florida, it's virtually impossible for him to get to 270 electoral votes. So if Florida falls for Biden, this race is on its way to being over. End sidebar. Now to 2 more states that Trump won in 2016 and needs to win again. That's Iowa and North Carolina. Now polling in both of those states suggests they are really close, like within a point, and could go obviously for either candidate. But Trump won them both in 2016, so let's give him the benefit of the doubt there. And that would get him to 258 electoral votes, and he would need just 12 more. At which point it would all come down to Pennsylvania, which appears to be the state in the upper Midwest Rust Belt area that Trump won in 2016, where he has the best chance of repeating in 2020. Trump, it's worth noting, is trailing by significant margins in both Wisconsin and Michigan, which he won in 2016 along with Pennsylvania. Now, how important is Pennsylvania, you ask? Well, Joe Biden and his vice presidential nominee, Kamala Harris, spent most of the last day before the election in the state, with concerts by Lady Gaga, Poker Face, Shallow, and John Legend, All of Me, in Pittsburgh and Philly. Has an exclamation point on the race. So where does the polling in Pennsylvania stand? Well, it gives Biden a low but steady single-digit edge. Of course, as Trump showed in 2016, he has an uncanny ability to pull out white, non-college educated voters, of which Pennsylvania has lots and lots. Sidebar, famed Democratic consultant James Carville once described Pennsylvania as, quote, Philadelphia in the east, Pittsburgh in the west, and Alabama in the middle. Yeah, that about does it. End sidebar. So the battle will effectively be between Biden's large edge in urban areas and smaller but critical advantages in suburban Philadelphia and Pittsburgh versus Trump's performance in the more rural remainder of the state. Win Pennsylvania, and Donald Trump is at 278 electoral votes, and he wins a second term. Now, the scenario above has lots of ifs in it. I get it. It would require Trump to pull a sort of inside straight that he did 4 years ago, and it is far from likely. But it isn't impossible to imagine it happening. And that is the point. We make new Point episodes every Tuesday and Thursday, including after this election. Make sure to check them all out.